and then there we go. PARC is committed to diversity and inclusion throughout this association. Diversity and inclusion includes, but is not limited to, gender, race, religion, ethnicity, disability, appearance, sexual orientation, gender identity, personality type, and geographic location. PARC understands that diversity and inclusion allows us to make better decisions because we are exposed to different opinions, perceptions, values, and experiences. Our goal is to integrate these differences throughout PARC to create an experience that expands everyone's horizons and opportunities for engagement, learning, and leadership. All right, Angie, take it away.
Thank you, Margaret. Hello, everybody. Let me get my screen share going here. We're going to talk about some building your business tips today as we ramp up to the next cohort of the program, which, side note, is now called Build Your Business instead of Boost Your Business. So if I continue to use the wrong 5-letter B word, you will all know why. Did my screen share pop on yet? It looks like it's taken a hot minute. Is it there? That's weird because it doesn't look like it. Or
it's there. It is
there. That's the problem. User error. User error. So hi, everybody. My name is Angie Callen. I am the founder of Career Benders, which is a kind of full service career coaching, resume writing, and business coaching firm. I've met some of you in person recently at the conference. I see some familiar names. And you know, one of the things that I like to do is tend to keep pretty open format. So chat's open, throw questions, comments, thoughts in there as they come up, and I'll grab them as they're relevant or make sure we cover everything at the end. But what we're going to talk about today is 3 tips on how you can quickly build and boost your own business. But before we do, I like to get a read on who's in the room because this helps me kind of apply stories and different answers and ideas on how to build your business based on who's here and how long you've had in business. So show of hands via emoji. Who are you? So where are our super brand new entrepreneurs who are like just starting out? Give us that wacky face in chat. I can't see everybody's faces. So you can, I know Nikki's raising her hand, but I can't see everybody. So stick a little emoji in chat if you're new. If you're kind of established but already in growth mode, oh yeah, you can put stuff up on your, I need to change these so that they're the Zoom reactions. You guys are so smart. So yeah, you get the picture, right? So, you know, everybody here is kind of like maybe dabbled, but really in that kind of like new foundation building mode, it seems like. Although I see one who's ready to scale and y'all are just excited. So, hey, let's continue. I'll give you a little bit of background on me and how Career Benders came to be. I won't go into a ton of detail, but the Reader's Digest version is, I started my career as a civil engineer. I knew when I was a junior in college, it wasn't what I wanted to do, but when you're a junior in engineering school, it's real expensive. You do not change your major. So I did that for 8 years. And when I finally decided to make my first career transition, I had no plan. I will straight up admit to you that I jumped off a cliff with no parachute, no net, nothing, and went on a little journey for a year or so, landed in the nonprofit sector where I spent about 7 years, 4.5 of which I was an executive director of kind of a grassroots organization. And that's where the fact that I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was 18 started to make sense, because I love entrepreneurship and they don't teach that in high school, let alone in the middle of nowhere in Pennsylvania. So that's where I started getting really into kind of a business sense and strategy, and grew that organization considerably through some of those just kind of natural affinities. And coming out of that experience, I knew I was ready to have a business of my own. And I had 2 requirements for that business: low startup, low overhead, which basically means you're coaching or consulting. And as I was trying to determine what specialty of coaching I wanted to be in, I got smacked in the face with the career coaching specialty, which I would say was on the rise or emerging 5.5 years ago. And so I've been really fortunate to kind of ride that wave. Got super busy in 2020 when it went boom and emerged. And those are some of the tricks and tips I offer on how to grow a business without killing yourself, because I almost kind of did. But that's a little bit of how this business came to be. And I've experienced a lot of different aspects of business challenges, both in this and other business endeavors. I've had 13 different business endeavors over the last 20 years. It's always a common theme. And then I finally realized why. And this is finally my successful one. So, part of what I like to impart is my own experiences on here's what you could do, here's what not to do, and here's what falls in between. So what I want you to really think about is dream with me for a second and think about possibilities. Think about the potential. What if you could change your own life and the lives of others through your business and through career coaching and resume writing? Because while a resume is a tangible product that our clients can go shop around for, there are a whole lot of intangible outcomes that come along with that tangible product that you can offer that increase the value just very practically. But also, we're in the business of changing people's lives. And if that feels really woo-woo to you, just stop and think about it for a minute. How many times, if you're already in business, you may have heard this from a client that was like, oh my gosh, I never thought I could do this without you. You helped me build my confidence. I would never have gotten this job without you. And so you really have to think about the bigger impact that we have via this vocation and how that also can, as the business owner, change your own life. So one of my little side stories I'll tell you is 7 years ago, I'm very transparent about the following. Almost 7 years ago, 6 years ago, we had a business endeavor that went sideways and went bankrupt. We put the business into chapter 7. We went chapter 7, which is not a humiliating experience. I'll just tell you that. Definitely defines my perspective on business risk. And Career Benders was one of my ways to rebuild our life. Over the last 5.5 years of growing this business, we spent 4.5 years living in a tiny home in a bus. And I grew Career Benders so that I could buy us a house. At 42 years old, I bought us a house last July. My husband works for me, and we have completely turned around like our financial situation in 5 years because of how we've been able to approach business and help others, and that's returned on us. And that's why I get super fired up about the power of entrepreneurship and what it can do in your lives and others, which is why I'm excited that all of you are here and you're curious to do this, because it is really, really, really possible. Because I want to know who of you out there, show of hands, who would love to make more money? Who would love to get more clients? Who would actually like to build wealth, right? Entrepreneurship offers a pathway to real wealth building that you can't get through your 4% employment raises every year. We talk about this with clients, right? Changing jobs is probably the best way to get a substantial raise. However, unless you're at the very highest level, making those super high 6-figure salaries, it can be hard to really build wealth. Whereas a business of your own has unlimited potential, and you can design it to fit within exactly you. And so over the last 5 years, I'm going to show you what's possible. I took the numbers off of this, but still, this is what your growth trajectory could look like. So whatever you made last year, think about that and double it, because that's what happened in my first year. Then you take that, and I think the next one was a triple. So 2020 was triple the previous year. Then 21 was a 10% growth, because that was an adjustment year, because I almost killed myself in 2020. So we still went up while working less. And then last year grew another 35% still while working less. And a lot of this is because of the different ways I approach coaching, packaging, and pricing services and delivering it to clients in that solutions-based approach. For the few of you I see here who are at Thrive, you heard me talk about this, where it's really delivering solutions versus tangible transactional products, because that's where you start to get into changing lives. That's where you build value in your client relationships. And that's where you really build the potential and tap into that potential that your business has. So did I go backwards? Nope, there we go. So in your business, take wherever you're at now, whether it's I'm thinking about this and I haven't actually done anything for anybody, or, oh, I dabble, I see maybe 3 to 4 clients a month. Imagine if you took that and you increased the number of people who are interested in your business and you increased the amount of those people who buy after you have your initial call, right? Then you streamline that sales process so that it becomes super easy for them to purchase. And that's why the conversions goes up. So you're taking advantage of those leads, which means you're maximizing your RODI. And this is my ridiculous 5-letter acronym I hope I get posthumous memes about after I die. Because you hear about ROI, return on investment, right? That is purely a financial baseline. We in the coaching world are in this business to serve and impact others. However, as an entrepreneur doing that, you still got to make money to keep the doors open and put food on the table. So what we want to strive for is maximizing that return on investment, but it's a return on investment of your time and generating impact. So that's what all those letters mean, right? So return on time and investment and impact. Because if you do all of those things, you have a magic equation for some serious results. RODI, there you go. Somebody make a meme about it, throw a cat on it. It would be appropriate, right? So how do we do this? And I'm going to walk through some very high level, I would say, suggestions on this. Ask questions, dig deeper. This is the kind of stuff that we get into in depth in Build Your Business, but I want to give you valuable takeaways today. So your return on your investment of time to generate impact is what we're looking for, because unless you're doing paid lead generation or, whatever it is, there's an actual return on a financial investment. But each client we talk to, potential client we talk to, is time. And the more you talk to and the less you convert, the more time each sale is taking, and that's less efficient. So what we want to do is maximize all that. So we're talking about converting leads at a higher rate, which means you're saving time. It also means you're going to have better results and greater impact because you're likely also scaling up or leveling up the quality of client that you're getting and the quality of lead that you're getting. Because the more focused you are, the more those leads are a fit for you, the easier they are to convert, which also means then through some of these strategies, you can increase that per client ticket, which is like those upsells, those cross sells, the packaging thing I'm going to talk about. Package is like, just get ready. You're going to hear it 12,000 times. Where's Stephanie? I'm going to make fun of her. Stephanie and I roomed together at conference, and we went to Harry Potter World on Friday. And on Sunday, when Mark shows up, she says, Mark, I can't tell you how many times I've heard the word packaging in the last 2 days, right? But it's like one of my things. And it's what made a huge difference in my business. And it's what will help you convert all these, because it's easy to sell solutions that align with your clients. It increases the value and also increases your profitability. And I'm going to show you some numbers in a little bit that'll help make this make sense. But our profitability as coaches is not based on, if you know P&L's COGS, because we don't have necessarily a cost of goods sold. We have COTS, cost of time sold. I just made that up on the fly. I think I like it. Right. And so you have to think about the cost of what you're making in exchange for your time, the cost of your time sold as your profitability marker, since we're selling an intangible IP-based service. So these are all kind of baseline metrics you want to think about as you refine and increase your lead sources, increase the number of interests you get, and start converting, because the better you know your numbers, the more you can refine things. And we're going to talk more about that too. So here we go. More stuff. I also should have warned you all, I talk really fast and dump a lot of information. So stop me anytime I need to revisit anything. All right. So first of all, how do we increase leads? Because you cannot increase revenue if you cannot increase your sales, and you cannot increase sales if you can't convert. You can't convert if you don't have enough leads. So what I want you to think about here is diversifying sources. So as career coaches, resume writers, anybody in the career services professions, recruiters, HR consulting, I'm sure LinkedIn, you're on it. If you're not on it, go be on it. That's the number one takeaway I'm going to give you today if you're not already there. However, one of the challenges of only using LinkedIn is that who loves the LinkedIn algorithm right now, right? How maddened are you by the freaking LinkedIn algorithm right now? And so if you go with one platform, you're at the mercy of any changes that platform makes. right? So you want to be cautious of putting all your eggs in one basket, simply because, especially if you don't control it. So other ways to do that are diversify virtual sources, LinkedIn, add another platform, do another social, build referral partnerships. You're all members of PARC, I think. If you're not, you should join. Shameless plug. And think about referral partnerships with collaborators that would make sense. Partner up with recruiters who talk to a lot of candidates and read a lot of resumes, but they don't write resumes or don't want to write resumes, but you could be top of mind and they'll think of you to say, hey, we need to make you a better candidate. Go talk to Nikki. She'll help you get your resume in order, right? Other coaches. So for instance, if I don't write federal resumes, I have people I send those to, right? So you don't have to be everything to everyone, but having a solution for everyone helps build that trust that will then bring people back to you or refer, or then you'll get the two-way referrals, right? So these are all just different ways to create lead sources. I mean, we track them. I think that's on here somewhere. It says track your data. I think we track at least a dozen lead sources, from LinkedIn to the website to the poop leads we get from Facebook and Instagram to some directories we're in, right? Referrals. We track them all because then I know what generates the most results. And if I want more leads, I know where to be more active, or I know what to turn up, or I know who to go talk to, right? So other ideas, there's your slave to LinkedIn. I mean, it will do its thing if you're on it, but you got to show up. And it's huge. And I would also say this, LinkedIn has almost become a passive lead source for us because I don't do ProFinder anymore. It became way too much for me, but I am in the service listing. But I actually think I get more leads passively through LinkedIn for people who go search and then they'll go book on my calendar and say they came through LinkedIn. So you want to be a slave to LinkedIn in that it is a huge place to have your brand and your perspective out there for people. James, I'm going to talk about, we do Thumbtack. I'll talk about Thumbtack, Fiverr, and Upwork in a second. And then you got to know your numbers because again, you want to know where your leads are coming from and what's an effective use of your time. So James's question is what I'm going to classify and categorize as your online paid directory services. We have pretty good luck with Thumbtack. These are what I would call your pay to plays. And they're all formatted a little differently. Thumbtack, you have a listing, you pay if somebody contacts you. Fiverr, people can buy directly from you. Upwork, you have to proactively propose on things. I have never seen any good results from Fiverr. And Upwork, I have recently learned there's an art to breaking into Upwork that basically you got to start so cheap. You have to question whether it's worth your time and build up from there. We've had good luck with Thumbtack, but it is by far the most expensive of them. And I think the best summary is it's complicated. And this is something that we go through in depth in the course around like where you want to diversify your lead generation. Because Thumbtack, there's an art to dialing it in. For example, I think it was 2020, we spent $15,000 on Thumbtack and made 75 grand that year. So it can be valuable, but you really have to look at it as a long-term. And you have to have that investment to front in a way, because you'll get a lot of noise. You might talk to 1 out of 10 people. And that one person after the other 10 might have cost you $500, but you sell them into a $2,000 package and it's a positive. So there's validity to these, but you have to figure out where they fit in your overall strategy. And again, you don't want one of those to be your single lead source, only because it could get really expensive and it increases your cost per lead. I'm a big fan. And we'll go into sales here in a second. I love selling. I could sell swampland in Florida if I thought anybody would find it useful. Back to the leads for a second, I think it's good to diversify those lead generations across organic, paid, and let's say active streams. So an organic would be building SEO or referrals. Each of those takes a while. It can take up to a year to get your whole SEO ecosystem working for you. Referrals, you've got to be active and out there talking and building those, but you don't have control over what your referral network delivers you either, which is why I think it's good to then have a paid directory option that you've dialed in and can turn up and down if you wanted it. We keep Thumbtack on for 1 lead a month, simply because it actually helps your SEO. And it just so happens I've gotten a couple good ones and actually sold clients, but we basically look at it as just a sunk cost that feeds into the Google ad, right? So you've got to know why you're doing it. But a directory listing can be good because you can control it once you really know your metrics. And then you've got your active stuff like LinkedIn posting that builds your brand, different online communities where you can show up, be an authority, and then it will bring you work, right? So you want to diversify not only just your sources, but the types of those sources as well. And then once the leads come in, you got to be ready to convert. When I first started Career Benders, I did not realize how much I loved, I'm going to say selling, even though that sounds icky. I didn't realize how much I really liked selling solutions to people until I had this business, but it took me a little while to find my footing. When I first started, I'm like, okay, sweet, let's kick up a Google ad. And in the first month or two, I probably got a half a dozen leads from a Google ad, and it was a wasted spend because I converted this many because I didn't know how. So you have to also think about how to refine your approach to sales and what you're selling in order to have a high level of conversion and to be able to relate to, to the people who come in. So this is how you do that, right? Package, package, package. How many more times do you want me to say it? Because it gives you the ability to sell solutions to problems. And I think this is one of the marquee things coaches need to learn in order to be better business people and better salespeople. Because we come into this from that service mindset and feel really icky selling that service and charging money for it. However, it has a value. And if you're able to position that value in a way that addresses the problems that your clients have, it becomes a lot easier and icky to sell. So there's only 1 or 2 people who heard me speak at conference, so I'm only a broken record to some. But if you've ever been in a sales call and you get that feeling in the pit of your stomach, you're like, oh, I'm nauseous, this isn't going well. The reason is because you're making that sale about you. You're making that conversion about you. Oh man, I haven't signed a client this week. I really need this money. I just went out on my own. I don't know where my next paycheck's coming from. Like, oh my gosh, I've got to convert this. And as soon as you get into that mode, I can almost guarantee you a 90% fail rate on that call because you've made it about you instead of about them. And that's what solutions are. It's about them. And then it makes the whole sales flow super, super easy. And, James said this same thing. You don't want to have to go up to people and say like, hey, you're on the treadmill. Why don't you think about losing 5 pounds around your waist and getting some personal training? Well, now you've offended them versus walking up to somebody on the treadmill, maybe getting on the treadmill next to them and saying, hey, I've seen you here the last week or so. How's your training regimen going? What are your goals? Oh, that's cool. Why do you want to lose 5 pounds around your waist? Oh, that would be great. Well, if you're ever interested, I've got personal training that'll help you create a really great foundation that'll last you for life. And you walk away and they're going to be like, oh, I got to think about that. And a week later, they're going to come and they're going to pop the question to James, like Nikki said. So there's a million correlations between careers and dating and business and dating. And it's like, you got to know when to pop the question, right? So my last 2 bullets on here are kind of how this looks in real time when I do it. And a sales call for me is 22 minutes of listening. If you want my insight, sometimes I'm listening, right? Because after 2,000 of these calls, which I've probably had at least that many of, you've heard it. However, you want to pick up on their cues and pain points. So when I have a sales call, it's typically something like, they'll say, oh, I'm calling because I need a resume. And I'm like, throw that out the door. Okay, well, tell me a little bit about your career. I don't care if you need a resume. Tell me about your career. Where are you at? What are you looking to do in the future? Where do you need support? And that's where you can allow for self-qualification. Because if they call you and they say, hey, I need a resume, you say, okay, well, here's how I approach resume. You just completely negated a whole big bag of potential around that conversation by letting them steer it versus you driving it. And so think about your sales call and your sales flow in a way that allows you to dig into their situation, understand, hear, learn their problems, and translate that back to them into a solution. I can't tell you how many times people will talk for 22 minutes, and I joke about that because I interject and steer it towards where I want. And I'll say, okay, well, it sounds like this is your problem in a 12-word nutshell. And they're like, oh, you get me. And guess what? They don't care how much money I'm about to tell them they need to spend because they are already sold, because you built that trust and you showed that you hear them, you understand them, you have sympathy, maybe even empathy for their situation. Now you're going to say, and here is that total solution to everything we just talked about. You mentioned you needed a resume. Well, what you also said when I asked what else, where else do you need support? Because when you say, how do you need help? They're going to say, well, I feel like I can't brand myself really well, so I really need help with that resume. And you go, okay, where else do you need support? And they're and 9 times out of 10, they're going to say either I don't know where to find the jobs I want, I don't know how to network, or I can't interview. Well, they just sold themselves into a package, right? Because now it's like, okay, well, you mentioned a resume, but there's obviously 2 or 3 other areas you need support. So here's this comprehensive solution. By the way, this is what it costs. Here's what it looks like. It's going to be great. We're going to achieve your outcome. And they're sold. And you made it easy for them to buy something that they don't have to think about because you aligned it to their problem. And even though it's a package or a program or a product, whatever you want to call it, that is designed, you generally offer to everybody else, you have tailored it to deliver it and align it with their unique situation. And that is that trust thing that's just an amazing foundation. And I've had people, for instance, I'm on this community of like all these tech people because I do a ton of work with people in tech. And this guy yesterday posted in this resume channel, hey, can somebody give me their thoughts on paid resume services? And of course, all these people are like, you can get the feedback here. It isn't worth it, isn't worth it. And I'm like, well, as a professional resume writer, here's the benefits of it, right? And he and I got into this exchange and I found out he's having active interviews. And I was like, you should not spend any money until you see how these go. And he was like, I really appreciate that. Guess what's going to happen the next time he needs a resume? Right? So provide the solution that's right for them, not necessarily the solution you want to offer them, is probably another thing to think about. But at the foundation, you need to have those solutions. And that is something we get into the nitty gritty around in Boost Your Business, Build Your Business. Told you I was going to do it because I love figuring out how to package intangible ideas into buyable services. It's so fun. And I don't know why I was given that affinity, but I do. And then what's also going to happen as you do this is you're going to maximize the spend. And this is going to toggle us back to business mode, back to entrepreneur, back to sales mode. But again, it's still rooted in the idea of designing and delivering solutions aligned with problems. Because when you package those types of things and you sell solutions, it also means you're probably over time going to get better leads, which means fewer calls. You're going to get better leads and you're going to convert them better, which basically means fewer calls. That's where you get your roadie. And while it seems weird, like Angie, I want to talk to more people, not less. It's the same thing we tell people about job searching. More applications does not necessarily mean success. It probably means you're throwing a whole lot of shit at the wall and none of it's sticking. It's the same thing where if you are talking to 10 people a day or 10 potential clients a week and converting one, that is a really poor return on your investment of time and impact, right? So we want to rein all of that in, focus who you're targeting, your niche. You want to then design your packages to align with them, know how to present those as solutions. And what you've done is just put all the metrics that you know in your favor. And I'm going to give you some real outcomes to show you how this works. So here's a case study. I have 2 case studies from people that were in the last Build Your Business cohort, which is not a further sales into Build Your Business. I just love these outcomes. So this is one of our coaches who went through Build Your Business. And what we really did was build confidence around selling solutions that this coach had been dabbling in selling for like a year, but wasn't 100% confident offering. We built that confidence. And what happened is over the course of like a year-to-year comparison, her January sales went up 144%. Her Q1, which is the first 3 months of the year, were up 50%. And then she increased her per client value 25%. So if you think about who you're helping right now, if you have 10 clients at a time and they're spending $1,000, think about what happens if you increase that value 25%. You've just turned 10,000 into 12,500. That's significant, especially if that's a month. Now you just made, I'm going to do my math teacher dad a terrible disservice right now. What is that? Another 10K on the year? So, and each incremental increase also reduces the amount of time potentially you have to work. So we're really working that roadie equation. My other case study is this was a resume writer who was basically selling a la carte services and was also very hesitant to get into coaching. And so we really built confidence, figured out how to package things, what could go into those packages and build confidence around it. 67% increase in Q1, 42% in per client value. That business is consistently at 10K a month. So now we went to a 6-figure business. That's the kind of stuff that gets you to quit your day job if you still have one, everybody, right? And then now, if that's a 10K a month, and then here's the example. Now let's put the 2 case studies together and pretend that's your next level. So if you're at 10K a month, that's $120,000 a year. Now, if you're able to increase your per client ticket 25%, do the math on 120,000. Now you're getting into like executive salary kind of stuff, 150K a year, right? So it starts to snowball very quickly once you get past that kind of entry level pricing, and then you start packaging. And I also, I'll be honest, from a service perspective, really enjoy the solutions-based approach because I get to be part of the outcomes, and you can track your outcomes better because you tend to be with your clients in a little bit more intimate of a way to be able to kind of see where they land, which helps you track things to be able to say when a client calls, well, 75% of the people who come into this program are in a new role inside of 90 days. Whether they even think that 70% is good or bad, they don't care because you just whipped out a testimonial like metric that helps them know your outcomes, right? So this isn't even about business or financial outcomes. It's also about client outcomes and how that whole little ecosystem perpetuates incrementally and exponentially increasing your value as a coach in the market. And that's what we want to do, right? We want to build your brand sentiment, your brand value, because then you can build your business to the maximum potential and maximum impact. So I'll give you a little bit of, and I talked really fast, so we're going to have time for questions. So you better start queuing them up. I'm going to give you an outline of what we do in Build Your Business, because I have a feeling a lot of the questions are things we dive deeper into that I can't answer in 20 minutes. But here's what Build Your Business looks like as a solution to your business, right? So we get into the business of coaching, right? Making sure you've got a strong operational foundation to support growth and scaling, including kind of time management, calendar management, schedule, and client management, so that you have the balance of knowing how to maximize your client intake without going overboard like some of us did in 2020 when I was working 70 hours a week. I had a day where I saw 13 clients in 2020. Please do not ever do that to yourself. But you've got to put like checks and balances and frameworks in place to make sure you don't. So business of coaching, so that you've got a good framework to be a lead generation machine with no fear of selling. So you're converting consistent income. I can tell you with about probably a 7% variance how much income I will make every single month. And it's because I know how many clients a week to take. I know what packages I need to put them into. And that's the variance, right? An exec versus a normal, or a resume versus a package to some extent. I know exactly what will happen if I sell my 4 clients a week into packages, plus or minus 7%. Wouldn't it be amazing to get to that? Because let me just tell you right now, one of the most empowering things you'll ever do as an entrepreneur is pay yourself a paycheck and never think about it. It's so cool. And that's also just very practically, we get into that business structure. How do you do that? Operating foundations and like financial management kind of stuff is also part of this. So this is really truly about how to build a business that becomes your salary and your career like income. So it's a live program. You get this every week for 8 weeks, guys. I know you're excited. Make sure you drink extra coffee. We're going to do evenings. It'll be 4 Mountain, 6 p.m. Eastern. That way, people who have jobs are able to tune into this live. We did that specifically for some of you because the last one was during the day. And we're starting on June 6th. I think it's June 6th. I think I made a mistake. It's Tuesday. It's whatever that Tuesday is. They're Tuesdays at 4 p.m. It begins the week of, I think that's the week of the 5th, but Tuesday the 6th is the foundations course. We kind of market that as optional. So if you're already a little established, like Diana said, she's ready to scale. She's probably got a lot of this operations foundation stuff in order. But if you just want to revisit, or you're a noob and you want to know, okay, how do I take money? What kind of agreement do I need? How do I pay my taxes? That's what we'll go through in the first. And then for 8 weeks after that, we will be together live every evening, working on everything from identifying your niche to how to package solutions to that, to how to market, how to lead gen, how to manage your time, and how to sell, right? So it's a deeper dive into the very sweeping brain dump I've given you over the last 40 minutes. And I would love for you to join me because I've realized I friggin' love coaching career coaches and resume writers. It's so fun to take what I've learned as a practitioner in this, pair it with how much I love business, and help all of you go be way more impactful than I can be on my own. So that's why I do it. And Diana, I love it. She's like she hit the wrong emoji. It's okay. At least you gave me an example to use, right? So a couple things. Veronica, I'll answer that in a second. If you want program details, hold your phone up and take a picture of this QR code. It'll take you right to the website. And there is a discount code for all of you who are here. Angie 100 will get you $100 off the program. That's only good through the end of the week though. So if you want to do it, jump in. And we already have, I think it's 6 or 7 in the cohort. So it's going to be a really good group. And Veronica can answer your question. We will be live on Tuesday evenings at that set time. We're taking the 4th of July week off because the 4th of July is a Tuesday. I don't think any of you want to hang out with me at my barbecue. Actually, I'll probably be on the river on July 4th. So that would make life really interesting. And then, so it's every Tuesday evening live for those 8 weeks, but everything is recorded. So you will get the most out of the live course because I try to be pretty interactive, make time for discussions. These are going to be our 90-minute blocks so that we have time and space to discuss and mastermind with each other, because that's something I absolutely love, to create the power of the group. However, they are all recorded. So if you're going to miss 1 or 2, you'll be able to catch up, but would still have the efficacy of the group. And the other thing that happens here is you'll all have a power partner. So you will all have a new park bestie to grow with, because I think that accountability is huge through this program. So James asks about marketing materials, packages, et cetera. I'm going to say they're not turnkey. However, there's framework for you to design your own. So with the packaging, we go through a whole exercise of identifying your niche, figuring out the products and how they relate to that niche. And then for marketing, I have like a whole little, do we call it the madness in my head around that, kind of diversifying your lead source categories and the timelines with which they tend to take to activate, so that you're kind of creating a marketing plan within this as well. And also like feeding off of each other to see what works, what doesn't work, and how different things are unique to you. Diana wants to know, what if you're not a resume writer? Diana, are you a career coach? Now I'm curious. You got to tell me what you do. Answer that question while I answer. Joanna wants to know, how do we assign partners during the sessions? I match you guys up based on where you are in business and personalities. And the last group, it worked out so amazingly to like, they were all meeting on their own and doing great things. I was like so proud. I was like a proud mom. There you go. I already have you two together. So I got to meet Joanna at conference, which is fun to have people in it. And I'll say this, Diana, if you're okay, cool.
I can actually speak. I'm unmuted myself. So
oh yeah.
yeah,
Well, I think you answered my question, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not really working on the resume writing part of it. What got me into this was working on the emotional side of job search, helping people with that on the managing emotions during job search through mindfulness. And I got involved with PARWCC for the certifications on career coaching and on the digital strategist. And also I'm doing the CEMP program with Jay.
Good. This is 100% for you. So it's really anybody that's in, I'm going to say that career services realm. In our last cohort, we had a guy who was a leadership coach. And what became fascinating is over the course of the program, how he identified the coolest, most unique niche because of I would say the influence, but also the clarity that came from everything. So just to let you know, I mean, my bread and butter is a comprehensive job search strategy program. It includes a resume, but it doesn't have to. And there's also some creative ideas on how we can create those solutions for you, referral partners you'll meet in the program to build that kind of stuff. So you're totally within the realm. And in all honesty, I used to run. So I'll tell you how this came to be, because I think it'll just, I talk. That's what I do. I ran this as a mastermind called the Converting Coach for 2 years through Career Benders directly. And I had everybody from other career coaches and resume writers to wellness coaches. I had a couple leadership coaches, a positivity coach, right? So it's really this framework is applicable to anyone who is in that service-based coaching and consulting type space. That said, a lot of our talk is going to be specifically around services for job seekers and other career services things, which you're in that ballpark. So there's a little bit of how this evolved.
Yeah, I could really use some help on packaging, pricing, and my other question on this is that I know people will spend money on this, and I know there are career coaches where you get the executives that'll spend a couple $1,000s working on a career change and that type of thing. But do job seekers really spend money on this type of thing? I guess the ones who feel that they should. I mean, I know when I've been a job seeker, I did, but do they, or are they looking for freebies?
Would you like me to go back to that whole I bought us a house thing?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
Yes, they will.
I got that one.
Yeah. Yes is the short answer. The key, in my opinion, is in how you package and deliver it and explain and align it with those problems. Right.
Yep.
And I don't think that necessarily has to include a resume. I think there's creative solutions in order to wrap that in as a total solution.
Right.
But also pricing is something we will likely get into because literally you could find a resume for $250 up to $4,000 in today's market. So where in there should you fall?
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
So we'll get into all of that kind of stuff. But the short answer is I think now more than ever, people will pay for job search support. For lots of reasons. One, even in the last few months, the market has shifted to the point that job searches are even more strategic than they were 6 months ago. Two, the amount of ghosting out there leaves people feeling like they're in an echo chamber, and they'll pay for unbiased feedback and that support from a, objective third party. Imposter syndrome, lack of confidence. Every single person I talk to uses one of those two, if not both words. And so they want to be coached through that. Like you said, the mental aspect of job searching, it makes you vulnerable. It exposes you. So 100% people pay for these services. And Stephanie dropped in chat which is 100% true. They're not just looking for the cheapest, they're looking for the right fit. And all of us come in different shapes and sizes and experiences that define and help us carve out niches that make those right people attract to us. Because we're not trying to be, you'll hear me say this 12 times, we're not trying to be everything to everyone, because then you're nothing to no one. But if you niche that down appropriately, then you will resonate with the job seekers who need you. And there absolutely is a market for that.
Okay. My experience is I've been downsized 6 times.
Yeah,
in
I think
15
you
years.
have some empathy for some
So
people out
I
there.
definitely have a lot of empathy for the whole
Yeah.
process, and I've been through a similar financial situation to you as well.
Yeah. And I
So-
think it's important. There's a reason. I have a colleague of mine who was on my podcast with me. I have a podcast called No More Mondays, shameless plug. And she is a former teacher who now is a marketer. And she's got this really cool framework for how to develop your personal brand. And one of the elements she puts in there is vulnerability. And I think it's important in what we do, right? To help a job seeker understand, and you see them. Now I feel like I'm an avatar. I see you. So that they can trust that you have their best interest and will give them sound guidance in mind. And I would say I do the same thing. Is I want you to know I'm not blindly leading you into, you could $350,000 career coaching business if you want, but rooting that in like real experiences that some have been quite shitty. Coleman has a good question. That's a new topic I want to talk about. Free coaching on the first call. So first of all, if you don't offer a free strategy session, you should. Joanna, they should only be 30 minutes, not an hour. We're going to talk about that. But you should have a free call, because you can't upsell and you can't build trust if you're not talking to these people. And also, you don't want to work with assholes, so you need to rule them out at the beginning, right? But you have to drive the call. So what usually happens on that call is they come on and they're like, they start woe is me right off the bat, or they start asking advice. And you're like, you know what? Stop. I'd like a little bit more context. Please give me 2-3 minute background on you and where you've been in your career. And they'll tell you that. And then you say, okay, well, where do you feel like you're at now? What's working? What isn't working? So I'm directing this call and they're going to get value out of it. I'm just not going to give them free advice. And what happens is you start to train them. So I have very few people who think they're going to get a half an hour of advice out of me. And sometimes I get 10 minutes into the call and I realize this person has one issue and I'm just going to help them through it for 20 minutes. And I do, but it builds that trust and goodwill. Like that guy on the platform who was like, should I pay for a resume? And I'm like, no, you shouldn't right now if you're getting interviews with what you have. So just be that honest, trustworthy person. I had somebody I talked to last week, and she talked to me a month ago, was going through some interview stuff. Nothing worked out. So she comes back and she's like, I think I need to go back through the whole thing. And I'm like, yes, you do. And you know what she said to me at the end? She said, I came back to you and I want to work with you because you are the least salesy person in this world, in this realm I've talked to. You want to be that. And that's how you also make sure you don't give free advice away, because you steer the conversation around listening to them. You ask them questions that don't give them space to try to get free info out of you, but that at the same time give you the intel you need to position that solution for their problem, right? I got you, Joanna. Did that answer your question, Coleman?
Yeah, it did. I mean, there's a lot. It's that fine line, right? Between like saying, I guess one of the not challenges. I mean, I just tell people and I keep it broad. It's like, well, is your LinkedIn profile your leading document? Does it match your resume, or you do have a performance-based performance or quantifiable resume? Well, how do you, how do you do all that stuff? And like, well, therein lies where you work with a coach. No, tell me a little bit more. And it's like, I've had a bait and switch too, which was just, I was literally like, the bait and switches are fun.
Well, and some people just want the free info, right? And
yeah,
that will become less and less and less. To circle back to something we talked to, that will become fewer and further between as you move up the ladder, become like generate higher quality leads, that like the type you want to attract. You start to weed out the noise. And the further up the ladder, like as you move rungs up the ladder, people become easier. Like I literally this morning had to, for the third time in 5.5 years and like 1,400 resumes, say to somebody, I don't think this is a fit. I can't give you what you expect. And a lot of it is because they didn't communicate and weren't transparent about wanting a resume that looked just like the husband's resume that a different resume writer wrote. And I'm like, if you would have told me that from the front, I never would have taken this project because I can't give you that, right? But I told him, I'm like, this isn't a fit. I'm going to give you a 50% refund and we're done. But that happens so infrequently now. But generally, the lower hanging fruit will take more of your time. And then you start to weed out, you start to have just fewer of those I call them looky-loos. And I learned my lesson the hard way on that, Coleman. I did a way back when the pandemic first started, I got involved with this thing that was called it was like an online career fair, and they had me come speak. And there were like 300 people in this virtual room. And at the end, my offer was a free strategy session. I was stoked because I got like 27 free strategy sessions booked from that. Translation, I gave 13 and a half hours of free coaching. Right? Like I probably converted 2 or 3 clients from it that made it worth all the time, but you have to also be careful where and how you offer that. And what I also do is if you go to the website and you click free strategy session, it sets up the expectation that says, here's what we're going to cover. We're going to learn about your history. We're going to learn about where you're at in your career. And we're going to talk about solutions that are going to help you get to the next level. So you can also just kind of start, but you have to drive those calls. That's the big takeaway here is you ask them the questions you want to ask, not the vice versa. What else? What else do we want to talk about? We have 7 minutes. I can talk forever. I have never ending opinions about everything, as you're probably noticing, and as you will find out. This is fun. I could talk about, I career coach all day long, but man, I could just do this for 24 hours a day. I love it. It's fun. And I really feel like in the last 5.5 years, because I became a career coach because I was trying to figure out what type of coaching I wanted to be, not because I had a direct experience with a career coach. And if you've had an experience with a career coach, that gives you an awesome messaging to put out there, which also I'll say we'll work on messaging as well. So like Diana, some of the questions you were asking, we can refine your messaging so that you are, or Coleman, you too, so that you're attracting who you want to attract and using the vulnerability that you have and the empathy that you bring to your advantage, but in an appropriate way, right? Is all stuff we get into. So Nikki says, do all my clients update me on my status? It depends on where they're at in their service. So I would say 85% of my clients are in a comprehensive program because I sell them into it. Probably 85% of my leads come in thinking they need a resume, and then they get a whole lot more. And so because I'm in a comprehensive program, one of the things I do is I do accountability sessions with my clients so that every few weeks as they're job searching, I have a touch base with them to know what's happening. And this is my unique approach to it, but I don't let them run away. So I know what their outcomes are. And I'm also helping negotiate those offers. So I try to keep really close tabs on everybody, but I also provide that. I also pitch that as part of the value that they're getting, right? That's a value add, because especially when you get into the executive level, which is somewhere I tend to hang out now, those people don't have time to job search. And so what you have to do is create an efficient process for them, but keep them accountable to doing the work they need to do to get an outcome they want. They just won't prioritize if somebody is not being like, hey, did you go network with 4 people yesterday? Right? So short answer to that is for the most part, they do. And Erin asked a really good question of how do you know when you're ready to scale? So, okay. So she intended it to be a side hustle to earn extra money. And you also love your day job, which is awesome. Now there's a lot of demand. So how do you keep your business at a manageable level? So a lot of the people coming into this cohort have full-time jobs. And I'm trying to remove side hustle from my vocabulary because for most people, this is your part-time job that you're going to make your full-time career sometime at some point at a transition. Erin, maybe for you, it stays a part-time effort, but it's not a side hustle because that dilutes it. And I think a lot of this comes around goal setting, which we can talk about at the beginning of the program. But if you don't have the goal to grow yours into a full-time business, that's fine. But what we have to do is put those checks and balances in place so that you can kind of maximize your impact, maximize the revenue this business brings in while not overtaxing you in combination with what you have available in your day job. And the same is the case even if you plan to transition from your day job. We still have to, it's like calendar magic. We have got to get in there and figure out what your max capacity is. And then at what point are you at max capacity to start, making some sort of bigger transition. And as far as the scaling piece goes, if you have no intention of leaving a full-time job, then I would really probably deter you from trying to scale this, because otherwise you're 2 horses, 1 ass, my friend, right? So Just think about that one for a second. But in general, the bigger picture of scaling, in my opinion, is you organically grow your business as far as you possibly can until it gets to be bigger than what you can do on your own. And I will tell you, I have been at scaling for about 1.5 years. It is the hardest thing a solopreneur ever does, especially in something as like close as coaching. But what I have done is grow this thing as much as I can to the point that it's like, how much do I want to work? How much can I really charge? Let's max all that out and maximize my organic revenue, and then start thinking about scaling type options like product, like courses, or adding another coach, which I now have 2 more coaches on staff, right? So you start thinking about, okay, I've clearly can max myself out. That means I know I can consistently create and generate the number of leads I want, convert them as much as I need to have that solid foundation. Now you have a platform to start getting into those scaling type things that take it even beyond you. And there's a million different ones of those. I can tell you the 500,000 I feel like we've tried. I can tell you what mostly has not worked, the 499,999 of them that have not worked. And we can get into some scaling, but this is really focused on that, like I'm going to say organic growth to get you to a platform to then scale if you want to, and how you fit this into bigger goals of, what you want to do with your job, which I think maybe you could end up figuring out through this, right? Because this is also could be a wealth building initiative for you, right? You keep your job, but this is the thing that you get to like sock away and become retirement. So there's a lot of different ways to be in business, and there's no right or wrong way. I mean, there's 4 ways that give you risk exposure to do business, but in general, there's no right or wrong way to be in business. It's about, and that's why we're in it, is because it's so customizable and so personalized, and you can do it your way, which is also what this is about, is how do we create a really sustainable, consistent business on your terms, in the way you want to live, and in the way you want to help people. Margaret came on, so I must have filled my time. Look at that. That was like a perfect send up too,
like
right on
harbinger
cue.
of doom. So thank you, Angie. Always great to hear
So fun.
from you. If you want to just touch base with Angie another time, she often pops into Rising Professionals, so where every now and again the discussion gets spirited. I know that's a shock for everybody, but so we hope that you had a great time and got a chance to ask your questions. If not, go ahead and reach on out to Angie. I know she'd be happy to talk to you. So thank you, Angie. Thank you, everybody who hopped in with questions and shared your experiences.
Thank you, everyone.
It makes us stronger. So thanks, everybody.